Today, Doc and I are going through some mailbag questions. First mailbag for the season. It's very early, but why the hell not? Let's go balls deep.
I could bet all of the riches that I ever had.
Welcome to another episode of the Balls Deep Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm Adam King. You can find me on Twitter or X at AdamKing91. Joined again by Dr. A. You can find him on Twitter or X at Doctora. Steve, thank you for joining me. Another week has gone by, and we'll go into some mailbag questions. How have you been traveling the last week?
I've been good. It's weird seeing the blue bird replaced by the black X on Twitter, right?
It is. Yep.
It's strange. It's still every time I see it, it kind of freaks me out, but I'm good with it. Everything appears to be the same. I'm not falling for all this alternate social media sites. I'm not running somewhere else.
No.
I'm comfortable where I am. I'm too old to be moving around that much.
Yeah, no, I'm
leave it as it stands.
Yeah, I think there was a period there where I think people were trying to find alternatives, but it seems like things have settled down a little bit, other than the weird new name. As you said, everything looks the same.
My kids started school today, so I got up at the crack of dawn and fought traffic and took him to school. And then I went and worked at the golf course and rode around in a golf cart for 4 hours.
Yep.
Got a free lunch. And here we are.
And so started school. I always get, because it's summer over there. So you guys, they just finished summer holidays. Is that how that works?
First day of school was today, August 1st. Yes.
And most people who listen to this are probably in America. I don't know, but your kids over there for their school holidays, it's a big summer holidays, isn't it? It's like 12 weeks or something.
Yeah. It's like June and July, pretty much.
Okay.
Part of May.
And then, so do they then get other holidays for the rest of the year? I mean, Christmas, obviously they get a bit of a holiday, but.
Yeah, there's all this weird stuff now. Like when I was a kid, we started like around Labor Day in September, and we only got Christmas break and Thanksgiving break and spring break. But now there's all these extra breaks thrown in there. There's fall break and there's winter break and there's extra days, teaching days here and there, teacher days. Like it's just a lot of weird days. And then they build in some snow days, because if it snows a quarter of an inch in Georgia, we're going to be out of school for a week. So they build that in there. And now in Indiana, if it snowed 1.5 feet in one night, we didn't miss any days. But in Georgia, if it snows a quarter of an inch, you're out for a week. So
yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's very different over here, because our kids just get set holidays every 10 weeks. So they don't get a big block. They get 2 weeks, then you're back to school for 10 weeks, then 2 weeks back to school, 2 weeks back to school, 6 weeks.
So you're year-round school, more or less. And we are still traditional summers off and then all these weird breaks.
Yeah. Our kids do get a break over summer, but it's only sort of from just before Christmas to the end of January. So they get about 5 or 6 weeks. I often wonder how I'd go with my kids. And I guess that's why summer camp is such a big thing over there. Because, God, having my kids here for 3 months at home, I'd go insane.
Yeah, it's not so bad anymore. All my kids are grown up. Like my only one left here is a junior in high school. So he's older and he can kind of take care of himself. I I still have to buy him food way more than I prefer. Especially everything's so expensive now. Like it's crazy, but.
And a junior is what, 14? 15?
He's 16.
16, okay.
He has this year and then one more year of high school, and then he's done with high school. We'll see if he goes to college.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anyway, let's get into the mailbag questions. I sent these through to you. All right. So some are going to be pretty quick. Some might warrant a bit of discussion. First one is, who are you drafting first this season, for this upcoming season? And this is in a redraft league. Kawhi Leonard or Paul George? I'll let you lead this one off. Who are you first there?
I really don't want either one of them particularly. But if I'm drafting one of them, it's going to be Paul George. I don't trust Kawhi.
Yep.
He's given me no reason to trust him over the last 5 years. Man, I love Kawhi. When he got traded, from Indy to the Spurs, it looked like such a big deal. And then the Spurs load managed him and all that, and he's been load managed ever since. And you just can't rely on Kawhi. I'm not going to rely on him this year. He's another year older. I do like his New Balance deal. I like the commercials. And I'm not saying I would not draft Kawhi, but I'm probably not going to draft Kawhi.
So
I would take Paul George first.
I just pulled up their early ADPs that we've got. So we've got Paul George at 35, Kawhi Leonard at 37. So both around the turn, the third, fourth round turn there. Depends how I was feeling. I think I might go Kawhi just because of his upside. We saw last season when he did play, he was first round guy. So he can be a top 10, top 8 player. Paul George, I don't think can, but Paul George is probably a little more assured than Kawhi. But I mean, both have been pretty bad in terms of injuries the last couple of years. So I might lean Kawhi just for the upside. But if I was needing a slightly safer pick, I'd probably go Paul George. Yeah,
if it's a head-to-head league and I care about games played, I'm going Paul George.
So next one is, who are you drafting first? Another player pick kind of thing. D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves, and I'll give you their ADPs. So Austin Reeves' ADP is 106. D'Angelo Russell is 96. So both in that sort of around that 100 range. That's a tricky one for me. I think I like Reeves. I just because I think he's a bit of an unknown, but I have a feeling that Reeves may be overdrafted this year. He might end up going too high. D'Angelo Russell, we know exactly what you're going to get with D'Angelo Russell. There are rumors that Gabe Vincent could start with D'Angelo Russell coming off the bench, which I actually don't mind for D'Angelo Russell, because if you've got Russell sharing the court with Reeves, LeBron, Anthony Davis, he's what, third, fourth in the offensive pecking order kind of thing. LeBron's going to run the offense. They'll run a little bit through Anthony Davis. Reeves will handle the ball. If Russell's coming off the bench and running that second unit, he could be a sort of a 16-6 guy with a couple of threes. So I don't know. I don't mind Russell this year as a bit of a, I just think people are going to be soured on him a little bit. So there might be a bit of value there. Have you got a preference?
I think I like Reeves. I like what his teammates say about him. I feel like LeBron is a big Reeves guy. I feel like when LeBron and Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell are missing games, like they can count on Austin Reeves to kind of be the glue to hold everything together. I kind of like him. I think I like Reeves better than Russell, especially this Gabe Vincent talk. is very concerning. LeBron's going to be the guy that has the ball in his hands. Reeves just has to hang out on the perimeter, get the ball, play some defense, do some rebounding. I feel like Reeves is just happy to be here, and he's doing everything he can do to stay in his lane and do his thing. And I like Austin Reeves better than Russell at this point.
Yeah, and I mean we're talking pick 100 as well. So
true.
If you want Reeves, you just take him. This next one I'm going to let you do because I am not a successful golfer. 3 keys to being, and you did answer this on Twitter, I know that, but I thought I'd put it on the show anyway, just because I don't know, it's fun to talk about golf. Your 3 keys to being a successful golfer. Fire away.
Well, number one is I would argue that I'm not all that successful of a golfer right now. Now, I was like in 1997, Adam, I was a really good golfer. My handicap was like 7. I was shooting 75, 76. I had a couple hole-in-ones in tournaments that were very important, and I could pretty much hit the ball where I wanted to. But I took 15 years off when I moved to Georgia, and I got fat. I got old. I had a bunch of kids. I didn't play hardly at all. And really when COVID hit, I tried to get back into it. I thought I was just going to step in and be right back where I was, where I left off in 1997, but it didn't really work out that way. It's been a long road back, but the key is to go out and practice on the range, take some lessons, and not just like I just try to get better by going out and playing 18 holes with my friends, and you just don't get better that way. You just keep repeating the same bad mistakes. So practice on the range is number 1. 2, starting early, which it's too late for a lot of us to do that, but the earlier you start and the better you get when you're young, the better you'll be when you're older. And then I guess 3 would be play with people you like, and don't put too much pressure on yourself, and you don't have to swing as hard as you can to hit the ball far. You swing within yourself and don't try to overdo it. It's more important to hit a fairway than it is to drive it, 280 yards.
Yeah.
That's
Look, the last one you mentioned there, like, I mean, I play golf. I don't play much, but when I was playing before I had kids, we were sort of playing every week, every couple of weeks. We'd go away and play. It was just me and mates. So probably going against your piece of advice there, we were just repeating the same mistakes. But you do figure out quite quickly that you don't need to swing as hard as possible. You let the club do the work. And the harder I swung, the more I sliced it or I hooked it. Whereas if you just control it, you can try and keep it down the fairway. Definitely something I want to get back into though. Golf.
I played in a big tournament on Saturday, and I could not hit my driver off the tee box. I just couldn't do it. But we were playing, it was a kind of a scramble format. And for some reason that day, my 50-degree wedge and my 56-degree wedge were just dialed in. So I was throwing these darts from 100 yards out, like right at the flag. Yeah. And we were making putts, and we actually finished in the money, and it was awesome. I got points in the league I'm in, and it worked out well. And usually my wedges are not the strong part of my game, but that day they were working. And that's really the thing for somebody who doesn't go out and practice, which I don't. Some days my wedges are on fire, and some days my driver's on fire. I just never know what's coming. And that's an uncomfortable feeling when you're standing on the tee box.
One day they'll both be on fire, and
and then that's when it's all going to come together, and I'm going to be accused of being a sandbagger.
So do you guys have in America? So there's obviously there's golf and there's putt golf or mini golf. Do you have pitch and putt over there? Is that a thing?
Not so much.
Okay, but you know what it is?
Not really. That we have par 3 courses.
Okay, that's
where every
similar.
shot is with an 8-iron to some sort of wedge,
Yep.
and they're all par 3s. A lot of them are under the lights, but I'm not too familiar with pitch and putt.
It's pretty similar. So it's basically a golf course but shrunk down. So all the holes are par 3. Some of them are only, well, I talk in meters, so I don't know what it is over there, but some of the holes are 50 meters or 60 meters. Some are 100. So you can reach the green easily in one shot every hole. So it's just about practicing your pitching and your putting. And there used to be a course, I don't know, 50 meters, 100 meters from my parents' place. So we used to play that a lot growing up. And my uncle, it would have been 30 years ago. My uncle was actually good enough that he represented Australia at that sport. He was very good at golf, but got very good at pitch and putt and ended up going to some world championships and things like that. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So for this season, who are your biggest improvers and biggest regressors? I couldn't find a better word for that. But guys, I think when you look at last season, who has the potential to improve the most and who could just fall sort of way off the radar? I'll let you go with a couple of guys.
I don't know that I'm going to go way off the radar, but I feel like Jimmy Butler is a guy that I'm staying away from this season. I feel like he's going to save himself for the playoffs, and he's going to miss a bunch of games. He always does. He finished with first-round value last season, and I just have a hard time believing that he can do it again this year. I just feel like we saw glimpses of playoff Jimmy last season, and I think that is what they're going to build toward this season. I think Jimmy Butler is a tough guy to take in the first 2 rounds of your fantasy drafts. Brooke Lopez, right there with him. Like, what a year Brooke Lopez had. Second round value. Hitting threes, blocking shots, playing so good for Milwaukee. Like, I find it hard to believe he's going to do that again. I don't know his age off the top of my head, but he's not a spring chicken anymore. And then Chris Paul playing alongside Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I just don't see how CP3 stays very relevant this season. Those would be my regressors.
Yeah, I think I had Chris Paul as well, Brooke Lopez. There's sort of some obvious ones. I think Kristaps Porzingis could be another one. Just coming into Boston, playing alongside Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. He'll still be really good, don't get me wrong. I think he'll still be probably a top 30, top 25 kind of player. But last season, he was borderline first round. And I just don't think that he'll be required to do as much as he was in Washington. So I think he's a guy that you probably don't want to target in the second round if possible. In terms of risers or players that I think can come up, Walker Kessler's an obvious one. If you base it purely on end of season rank last season, he was 50 odd, I think, 57th. He's been drafted in the second round in a lot of leagues, which I think is too high. I don't think he should be drafted in the second round, but I think he could be a top 30 kind of player this season. And then I had one more. Just go through my list here. Who was it? Rudy Gobert, I think. I don't mind drafting him this season. Don't know what his ADP is. Let me have a look. So his ADP is 66. He was 61st last season. I feel like he's going to be better than that. I think the Wolves are prime. Well, I hope they've got a bit of a soft spot for the Wolves. I'm hoping the Wolves are primed for a nice season. Anthony Edwards is saying all the right things. I think they really want to push for the playoffs hard this season. Push for a top 4. I don't think there'll be a top 4, but they would like to get there. So I think Gobert is a guy that if you can get him after pick 60, there's certainly scope for him to be a top 40 guy again. Any players that you like or that you're sort of targeting that you think could have bounce back seasons?
Well, I did not put Walker Kessler on my list because I knew you would have him on your list, and you have sort of become the leader of the Walker Kessler bandwagon. I think you might be driving that train, Adam.
There's a few of us, yeah.
I think it's a good train to drive, man. I like him a lot. He was a very surprising rookie, so I like that call by you. I'm going Alperen Şengün. Don't ask me if I'm drafting Walker, Kessler, or Şengün because I don't know. But I'm happy with either one of them. I've been on the Şengün. I've been driving that train for 3 years now, and I think this is the year it finally comes together. I really like Bruce Brown in Indianapolis. I think that's going to be. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes and do a lot of good things for them. And he's sort of like one of those guys who does a little bit of everything that can help your fantasy team. And then I'm looking for a Chris Middleton bounce back. He was 13th round last year. If he's healthy this season, I think Middleton could be like 7th round value.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably his floor. Prior to last season, he was a top 50 player for multiple seasons. So one guy I'll just get your thoughts on. So in the latest roundtable article that we did, we talked about sleepers, very early sleepers. I had Ben Simmons as my sleeper. And I prefaced that by saying that I might have shot myself in the foot by saying that he was my sleeper. Any hope for him? We've probably discussed it before, but if last round, if Ben Simmons is sitting there and I'm okay with the free throw issue, I'd be jumping on him quite quickly. But are you feeling the same or probably not?
Well, I mean, if you're talking last round, last pick of the draft, like your last pick, I don't have any problem with that at all. Am I going to do it? Probably not. All you have to do is watch that documentary about Ben Simmons, and you could tell that once he became the number one pick and once he got paid, he just didn't seem to care about too much else. And it's been that way throughout his whole career. Like, can you get this guy on the court to play basketball? And it's been very difficult to do that. And so there's a huge difference between taking the defensive player of the year and the rookie of the year in the 3rd or 4th round, as opposed to taking Ben Simmons in the last round of your draft this year. Like, there's no risk with a last round pick because there's 12 guys on waivers you can drop him for at any time and feel good about it. So last round pick for Ben Simmons, I'm all in, but I'm not targeting Ben Simmons anywhere.
No, his ADP is 137, so he is in that last round, or 12th round if that's how deep you're going. So yeah, look, I probably do buy into the hype a little too much at times, and maybe I'm doing that again with the workout videos and the stories about him being healthy. But I hope for his sake that he is healthy and both physically and mentally and ready to get back out there and do what we know he can do. So I'm going to take this one. You flagged this with me before the show. Talk through the advantage of the 3rd round reversal in snake drafts and the perceived disadvantage to the top half teams with the reversal. So very wordy, but this came from Styles of Beyond, who's doing some writing for us at FBI. He's writing weekly articles for us. And I clarified this with him last night. For me, it's as simple as looking at the numbers. If you look at the numbers in a standard 12-team draft without a 3rd round reversal, so obviously that means you're getting the 1st pick, the 24th pick, and the 25th pick. as opposed to the first pick, the 24th pick, and the 36th pick in a reversal. And if you just look at fantasy numbers and obviously ranks and values, they're very subjective and it is dependent on what stats you need. So it's not as simple as just looking at the numbers. But usually the top players, Jokic, Embiid, last year it was Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Davis, on per game basis, the difference between those guys and even those at the bottom of the first round is pretty significant. And if you then extrapolate that across the whole 100 players, 150 players, and Josh Lloyd talks about this a lot when he digs into numbers, the top guys are so much better than even your second round players. The difference between like a Jokic and a Jaren Jackson, if I look at just value on Basketball Monster, it's 0.35 is the difference between Jokic and Jaren Jackson. So that's the first ranked player and the 13th ranked player. 0.35, the difference then from Jaren Jackson is, if you sort of take that same difference down to Drew Holiday, who's the 38th ranked player. So that's 2 rounds of value. And to then get another 0.35 difference, you're looking at like the 100th ranked player. So those top players are so elite that if you don't do a third round reversal, whoever's got the first pick is going to get a really valuable pick at pick 25. The difference between 25 and 36 is significant enough that it actually impacts the value of your team. In a standard league, I don't think it's essential. I don't think you need to do a third round reversal. But if you're running a 20 deep or a 30 deep league, you absolutely have to do it because the difference, we just stretch out basically what I said. The difference between Jokic and say he's the first ranked player, someone's then drafting the 30th ranked player, the difference is 0.66. And then the difference between the 30th ranked player getting down 0.66 it's massive. Like it's off the chart. So if you're getting the 30th pick in a 30 deep league, you have to get the 61st pick rather than the 91st pick, because the difference between 60 and 90, it's quite significant. And so any dynasty league that I'm in, I love to get an early pick, top 5 if possible. If you get sort of 20, 22, you're sort of stuck in no man's land a bit. And then if you get pick 30, you're really struggling in terms of that top end talent. So you need to load your team up with serviceable guys that are going to play, that are going to have value. So for me, I think simply put, 12 team, if you want to do it, do it. Deep leagues, you have to do it. There's no way around it, I don't think.
Well, and that's sort of what we talked about earlier. Like, I think the time you want to reverse that third round is when you're in a 20 or 30 team league. Yeah. If you're in a 12 team league, you get the number 1 pick, and then you don't pick again until 24. You want that 24-25 combo. And you deserve it, I think. So in a 12-team league, I don't want to see a third round reversal. I want to be able to pick where I'm supposed to pick. And snake drafts has always been set up throughout history, which I'm basically part of this history because I've been doing this forever since we started this. You want that 24-25 or that 23-26 or whatever it may be. But if you're in a 30-team league, the wait for it to get back to 30-31 is so long, you almost have to reverse it, or that guy that had that third round pick is going to pick 180 or whatever it is, 120. It's too far. It's too much. So reverse it in a deep league, leave it alone in a regular league.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think I've played in a lot of 12-team leagues where we haven't reversed it. No one's really complained. Once you get to 16, 18 teams, then you start considering it, I think. So the next one here, I mean, we're not sort of in with the Atlanta front office here, but will Capella retain the starting job over Okongwu this season? Do you see a path for them to play together, or will they essentially split the centre minutes, which is sort of what they were doing down the stretch last season? I'm very high on Okongwu. I've let that be known. I'd love to see him starting, but what have you got any thoughts on what might happen in Atlanta this year?
I wrote the Clint Capella player outlook for the draft guide for RotoWire like 2 days ago. And I said the same thing. Like, is Okongwu going to challenge Capella to start? Whether or not Capella or Okongwu starts, it still feels like they're going to split time. And it's going to be a timeshare either way. I like Okongwu's upside. It would not surprise me if Capella starts all year. It would not surprise me if Okongwu won the starting job. So either way, I think it's going to be a minute split.
Yeah.
And it's going to come down to who's healthier and who's available to play. But there's so many interesting questions about the Hawks, and this is one of them for sure. I'm probably going to draft Okongwu before I draft Capella this year.
Yeah, I just pulled up their ADPs. They're very similar, actually. Okongwu's going at 87, Capella at 91. That sort of feels about right, I think, in a minute split. And I don't see a way for them to play together. I don't know if you think differently, but I don't think they can share the floor. So we basically need for Okongwu to get that starting job and to get 30 minutes, 32 minutes, we either need a trade or an injury to Capella. I don't, as long as Capella's healthy, I don't really see Okongwu establishing himself as a 30-minute guy while Capella plays 18 minutes. I just don't think they'll do that.
No, it's going to be 28, 26, something like that. And the interesting caveat here is that John Collins is gone. So there is a road to them playing together. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics to that timeshare. They could play minutes together this year. I mean, the Hawks could say, we're going to put our twin towers out there and see what happens. Put the twin towers out there with DeJounte and Trey. I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm not saying they won't. Yeah, they could share the floor. I just don't know how successful it'll be in the modern NBA with no floor spacing. But we'll see. We don't know. Some analysts expect a regression for Shea this year in percentages and defensive stats. How do you see him for this upcoming season and moving forward? So there has been discussion, and this was a pretty relevant topic on Twitter, actually, maybe last week, around Shea was the third-ranked player last season. Yes, he was third-ranked player in per game. And people are now drafting him at 3 in a lot of drafts, 3 or 4. Do you still see him as a top 4, top 3 player, or would you be more comfortable taking him sort of top 6, top 7? I know there's not a massive difference, but do you think with Chet there, we do see his defensive stats, blocks especially, do you still think they come back a little bit?
I mean, his blocks should come back. I mean, he's a guard. He's not a shot blocker, but he blocked shots last year. If you give me a list of 20 guys in the NBA that I'm worried about this year, SGA is probably near the bottom of that list. As long as he stays healthy, he's good to go. Like, if you want to draft him 3rd, draft him 3rd. If you want to draft him 6th, draft him 6th. I don't see it. And he's coming into his prime. He's progressing. He's not regressing. I don't see a regression to the mean for SGA. I just don't see it. maybe some of his stats take a little bit of a hit, but to me, the Thunder are all in now. They're like, we got Chet, we got SGA, we got Giddey. We're ready to roll. Like this is what we tanked for 5 years for. They're going all in, and the driver of that bus is SGA. I think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah, I think the concern, like the blocks you said, they may come back a little bit. Percentages are probably where we saw a huge increase. So I'm just looking at his career stats here. He was, before last year, he was basically an 80 to 81% shooter from the free throw line. Last year, he went up to over 90, so 90.5% on almost 11 attempts per game. So that was a huge increase. Simply looking at numbers and X ranks and everything here, his free throw percentage value prior to last season was 0.11, 0.16, 0.09, and 0.22. Last year it was 3. So it actually went up, 15, like 15 times what it had ever been in the past. So that I think might be a little bit of a concern for players, for managers, but I don't know. I think once you're a 90% shooter, you can probably hover around that area. Are you worried that his free throw percentage will come back at all?
Nope.
I'm
not. I mean, he did it for the whole year last year. He shot 90% from the line all year. Why he can't do that again this year, I don't know. Maybe he becomes a poor free throw shooter, but I don't know how adding Chet Holmgren to your arsenal makes you a bad free throw shooter. I just don't see him dropping off there. I don't see Chet Holmgren coming out and scoring, 27 points a game. He's not going to. I still think SGA, whenever he plays, he's going to be the best player on the court. I'm really not worried about him at all.
In a 12-team keeper league, so a keeper league, for anyone that doesn't know, it's not a dynasty league. It's just a league where you keep players for a certain amount of time. So I'm in a keeper league. My home league is a 3-year keeper league where we draft. The next year we keep 1 player from our roster. The next year we keep 2. The next year we keep 3. Then we reset. In a Yahoo 9-cat head-to-head keeper league, how early would you draft Victor? So if you were in a keeper league, would you draft? You're sort of looking 3 years into the future. I know in Dynasty, Victor is a sort of a consensus top 3 player. But where do you see him in 3 years? Like, would you take him? He's currently going at ADP. He's going at around 25. Would you think in a 3-year keeper league where you've got him for 3 years, would you be comfortable taking him inside the first round or not?
Well, it's a keeper league, so we don't know who else is available, right? Because everybody's keeping 2 or 3 guys. And so by the time you pick at number 13, SGA is gone. Tyrese Halliburton, gone. Steph Curry, gone. All these guys are gone.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm looking at Wembanyama because you're going to be able to keep him for 3 years at least. In some leagues, it's a keeper league indefinitely. Like you can keep him forever. Yeah. You can only keep 3 guys, but you can keep him forever if you want to. I'm not buying into this. Wembanyama is going to be a total bust. I saw something on X/Twitter where Bol is more talented than Victor Wembanyama. I'm not buying any of that. I'm drafting Wembanyama as high as I need to draft him. I'm not really worried about it. If I can keep him for 3 years, I'm going to go get him where I can. If that's at pick number 9 or 10, I'm doing it.
Yep. Yeah, look, I think that's valid. I mean, we know this year, obviously, the Spurs aren't going to compete. Probably next year they won't either. But in 3 years' time, that he'll have 3 seasons under his belt. he could easily be a first round guy by then.
And do we know that the Spurs are not going to compete this year?
We don't know that. I'm just assuming that. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like Wembanyama has been so, like, the hype train built up so high.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now everybody's like, oh, he's not going to be that good. I don't know, man. I'm not putting anything past the kid. I wish he was bigger. I wish he was bulkier. I wish he was stronger. But I don't think he thinks of himself as fragile. I think we all think of him as fragile. And I don't know, man. I think Wembanyama is he's gonna live up to the hype.
Yeah, I'm not. I after Summer League, I've got no concerns about the whole bus thing. To me, there, that's not. Just watching him on the court, you can tell he's really good, and he'll be fine.
I mean, the key is Popovich going to let him play?
Yeah.
And are they going to risk their future to run this kid out there and run him into the ground his rookie year? He's probably going to rest a lot, but I don't care. I still think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit of it'll come down to, because I think the games played cap now is 65 to win awards. So to win MVP, to win Rookie of the Year, those awards, you have to play 65 games. So I guess that's
a lot of games.
Yeah, if he plays 65 this year, I think he'll be a top. Like if you're drafting him at 25, 26, I think he'll probably return value if he plays 65 games.
If he plays 65, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, and the Spurs are going to make the playoffs.
Oh, well, all right. Well, we'll remember that one.
There you have it. Write it down, Adam.
What have we got? Next one. How are you factoring in Dame for next year? We obviously don't know with the whole trade thing, the Miami request. It's all a bit messy at the moment, but whether he's traded or not, is he a clear first round pick for you? And secondly, if he does get traded, which we're assuming he will at some point, what do you think Portland are going to do this year in real life? Are they a team that might push for the playoffs or not?
First of all, he's going to Miami. I think that's a done deal. Secondly, I think it'll happen before the start of the season. Thirdly, I think he's going to start for them. We're never going to hear from Kyle Lowry again. Although Kyle Lowry's not even there, but whatever. Damian Lillard, I think, is a first-round pick. Don't worry about it. He's Damian Lillard. Dame time. He's going to ball out. I'm really not concerned about him. As far as what the Blazers have left, that whole Jeremy Grant signing was weird. Right before Dame made his trade request. Now you got Anthony Simons, who should theoretically blow up this year. You got Scoot Henderson there. Should be fun. Shadon Sharp, one of the most entertaining players in the NBA to watch. I think the Blazers are going to be fun. I don't know how good they're going to be in real life basketball team, but fantasy, there's a lot to love about the Blazers. But I'm not really worried about Damian Lillard sitting out a chunk of the season or not getting traded. Like I think he's going to be playing and starting on opening night, and I think you're going to want him on your team.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's a pretty clear. You don't overthink it when it comes to Lillard. We know what he can do. Doesn't really matter where he is. I think he's a first-round guy. And Portland, yeah, I think a little bit like the Rockets last season, or like I think they'll be fun. There'll be fantasy value. But in terms of real-life basketball, I don't sort of see them probably winning more than 28 games, 30 games, because they are going to be very young. So entertaining, though. I think a fun team to watch.
They're going to be young, but they also have Jeremy Grant and Yusuf Nurkic. You know, Nurk has been disappointing the last couple of years, but I could see Nurkic having a bounce back season this year. And I could see Jeremy Grant becoming sort of like where he was 3 years ago, kind of becoming sort of a beast mode guy. Shadon Sharp could blow up. Simons, we've seen him fill in for Lillard and be very good. Scoot Henderson can play. Like, I'm not ruling the Blazers out. I think if I was a Blazers fan, I'd be kind of psyched about this team just because, like you mentioned, the Houston Rockets, like a lot of youth, some decent veterans, like could be a fun team to root for this year.
So 2 questions left. Who were your rookies last season and how did they go? So rookies you were high on and whether they ended up producing. And are there any rookies this season? I mean, obviously, Wembanyama we're pretty high on. I know which rookie you're high on because you have him in dynasty leagues. But who were your rookies last season and did they sort of turn out to be the players you had hoped?
Well, yeah, it was Chet Holmgren for starters. Yep. Like I thought he was going to be the man. Broke his foot or whatever and didn't play. So that was tough. And then Banchero I thought was going to be good. And he was very good. So those were kind of my 2 guys last year. This year it's Victor Wembanyama, obviously. I like Scoot a lot. I kind of high on Brandon Miller. And I also think both of the Thompson twins are going to be kind of fun this year. So I feel like there's 5 rookies that were all taken very high that should all be pretty fun this year.
Yeah, I think last season, I mean, yeah, again, I was pretty high on Chet, but didn't turn out that way. I was relatively high on Jalen Williams. I drafted him in a lot of spots. I didn't think he'd be as good as he was, but I did manage to get him on a lot of rosters. Jabari Smith is probably one that I was high on that didn't turn out. I took him in a few spots towards the back end of drafts, and he was serviceable, but not great. Percentages were down. I think he'll be a lot better this year. For this season, I mean, you've covered all the obvious guys there. Wembanyama, I'm still really high on him. Keontae George would be the other one. I've picked him up in a couple of dynasty leagues. I'm hoping that he starts, but I don't know whether he will. But I think he showed in summer league that he's capable of sort of mixing it with the best out on the court. So pretty high on him. And the last question, at this early stage, which pick do you like? I mean, it depends how many drafts you've done, but which pick do you like most to draft from in the first round? So if you were drafting in a 12-team redraft league, do you want the first pick? Do you want the 12th pick? Do you want the 8th pick? Have you got a preference at the moment?
I think I went like 5 or 6. I think I want to be in the middle of every round.
Yep.
And that gives me plenty of time to think before it comes back to me. Allows me to sometimes get my guys, sometimes reach for my guys. You know, when you're in the middle of the draft, you can sort of look at how many picks it is before it comes back to you. And if you got a guy you like, you can be like, well, if I don't take him now, I'm not going to get him when he comes back. And it allows you to reach a little bit without feeling too stupid. So I kind of like the middle of the draft, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. As long as I can get Luka at 5, but I think his ADP is 3. So maybe I like pick 3. I don't know. I want Luka. I still want Luka on my teams.
Yeah, I think it depends who you're drafting with. Because if I was in a draft, I would take Luka at 3. But people that are listening can't see that. You'll have to explain it. The Lucas, yes, the shoes.
I just have Lucas shoes behind me, and I've been driving the Luka bandwagon way harder than you driving the Walker Kessler bandwagon for years, a long time, and maybe this, if I would have been able to get in on the bold predictions roundtable that you did at the beginning, I would have probably said Luka's going to hit his free throws this year. But even if he doesn't, I don't care. I want Luka, but I think there's a lot of leagues you can get Luka at 4 and 5 instead of 3. So if I get Luka at 5 and then back it up the next round with, the 7th pick of the second round, I'm good with that.
Yeah, look, I think you can in some leagues. Much like you, I think I like that 5-6 range. To me, there's a pretty clear top 6 this season. So if you're picking at number 6, you're probably going to get one of Embiid, Shea, Luka, Tatum, Halliburton, and I'd gladly take any of those guys at pick 6. And then I wouldn't mind. Yeah.
Well, how important would it be for you to have the number 1 pick and get Jokic and be done with it? I mean, I would like to know how many teams Jokic was on that won their championship last year. I bet it's a lot.
It probably would be. It would be a lot. I'm trying to think if I actually had the first pick in any drafts. I might have, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Jokic is clear number 1. I don't think you'll get an argument from anyone there. Obviously, if you get Jokic, you're sort of set up for the season. I'd almost prefer not to get him, just to add a bit of uncertainty to the whole thing and a bit of excitement. I think with Jokic, you know exactly what you're going to get. I'm not going to say he's boring, because he really isn't boring, but I don't know. Let's take Luka at pick 4, and if he hits his free throws, he could be the second ranked player. Or let's take Tatum, and he could play 82 games and be a top 5 guy, which makes him the second ranked player because he played so many games. It's a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of excitement into it. So I think pick 5, 6 for me is where we want to be drafting.
I think if I get the number 1 pick, I'm not going to be sad, and I'm just going to take Jokic and wait for 24 to come around. Yeah. But if I had to pick, I think if I knew I was going to get Luka at 5, I think I'd want pick 5.
Yeah, yeah, and as you said, in a standard redraft, snake draft, picking in the middle gives you 12, 13 picks every round to decide on your next pick. You don't have to plan ahead as much. Picking back to back can sometimes be advantageous, but I really like picking in the middle and just having a constant, every 5 minutes I have to make my pick, or every 8 minutes, or however quick your draft is. So, I think we're sort of on the same page there. So that is all the questions for today. I'll get rid of those questions. No idea what we're going to talk about next week, but we'll be back next week. Any big plans for you for the next 7 days?
My family is pressuring me to drive to Indiana, which is a solid 10 hours. My daughter's birthday is happening. She wants to go. Well, they're going to Wrigley Field to see the Cubs and the Braves play. She really wants me there for it. But, man, it's a 10-hour drive there, then a 4-hour drive to Chicago, go to the baseball game, 4 hours drive back to Indiana, and then get up the next day and drive back to Georgia. I'm just not really feeling that. I think I may just stay in Georgia and chill, because we got to go back to Indiana in September for a wedding. This is the wedding shower that all the girls are going to.
Okay.
They're trying to drag me into that mess. I'm trying to stay right where I am, planted, grounded, seated, doing my thing, writing up some RotoWire draft guide outlooks. But I don't know. They may convince me to go Thursday at noon. We'll see. I don't know.
It is a long drive, 10 hours. It doesn't matter what country you're in. That's a long drive.
No, it's a long drive.
I'd be staying at home, but that's
what I'm trying to do, Adam. Trying.
Trying. And look, and you get to play golf then. If no one's home with you, you can just go and play golf every day.
Well, they're all playing golf on Saturday in Indiana. Supposedly it's free.
Okay.
I don't know. I have free golf here. What are you doing? What are you doing this the rest of the week?
Yeah, look, well, working a little bit. As I said, I'm home sick today with a sick daughter as well. Nothing bad, just it's cold here. It's just winter, so people get sick. I've got a friend visiting from Melbourne this weekend. So for those that don't know, Melbourne's about a 7-hour drive from where I am. So I'll be picking him up from the airport on the weekend and spending a few days with him. So I haven't seen him for a while. So that'll be good.
Are you guys going to play? Are you guys going to play some golf?
No, he's not into golf, I don't think. And he's not really even into basketball. So, I don't know what we'll be doing. He lived here years and years ago. And I'll probably only see him once or twice a year now. So we'll just hang out, probably go see a few people. We might go to a football game or something.
Maybe you can go bowling and listen to Men at Work and eat some. What are the sandwiches called?
Vegemite sandwiches.
Eat some Vegemite and go bowling. I don't know.
We usually something we will be doing, which disgusts my wife. We make a seafood concoction kind of meal, which just has prawns, mussels, tuna, about 5 different seafoods in a bowl with some spring onions, some mushrooms, bit of dressing. It's just a meal that we really like, but it smells really bad, and my wife hates it.
Now, see, here we call that a low country boil.
Okay.
Sounds like you're going to have a low country boil.
All right. I'll tell him that we're going to have a low. He won't know what I'm talking about.
Down there in the down under, you're going to have a down country boil.
Down country boil. Yes. And for some Vegemite. I have Vegemite every day, so there's always Vegemite on the menu. So that'll do it. I'll let you go, and I will go and have some lunch. We will be back next week, as I said. Thanks, as always, for joining me, finding an hour to jump on the show.
Absolutely.
We will be back next week. Remember, you can check out all of our content at fbibasketball.com. We've got, as I said, Styles of Beyond he's writing up weekly articles for us. So I've got the Roundtable article coming out every week. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. We love thumbs ups. And subscribe.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I don't know if this is allowed, but I think my Dr. A's hot list, my guys column, I think is going to be on RotoWire in the next 10 to 14 days. So that's all. That's my big thing I got cooking.
It's something, and you're doing the player outlooks as well.
I am
for that, yes, which I've been helping out with those as well.
Oh, good.
So give us a thumbs up. We'll tweet out everything we're doing, or X out, whatever we're saying now. But until next time, catch you later.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.